Well, for more on this, we're joined now from Los Angeles with William Lee. He's Chief Economist and Managing Director at Global Economic Advisors. Thanks so much for being with us, sir. First of all, the US is releasing 172 million barrels from its reserve, as we heard there, the second largest drawdown in its history. Does this actually move the needle, though, for Americans that are obviously feeling the pain at the pump right now, or is it more of a psychological signal to the markets?
Well, right now, the psychological signal is absolutely the most important thing. And the amount that is actually going to be replaced has to do with market's assessment of where the war is going. Right now, the disruptions are something on the order of about 10 to 15 million barrels a day that's going through the Gulf. That directly affects most of Asia. As you've said before, the United States is really relatively insulated. We are a net exporter of oil. So a lot of the release of petroleum reserves is in some ways to calm the markets, to say the world will be supplied, if not by Iranian oil, by U.S. oil, and they'll try to make up some of the difference. But the pace at which the U.S. can really pump oil out of its reserves is but a fraction of what is being disrupted in the Gulf. So it's a psychological effect is the most important right now. But the most important thing to maintain calm prices would be to shorten the duration of the fighting and restore traffic in the Strait of Hormuz.
Obviously, that is what many people want, including the US president, for the Strait to reopen. But if it stays closed for several more weeks or potentially even months in this, I mean, are we looking at a global energy crisis that no strategic reserve would be able to fix?
The strategic reserves, as you said, is really mainly a psychological effect because the net increase in petroleum that's available for the world markets is going to be small, and it'll be not distributed where it has to go. Most of the demand right now is in Asia, outside of China, and to ship it from the United States to these markets will take time. So I think the short-term impact over the next several weeks will be a moderation of the increase in prices, but for sure, the shortages will be there and remain, and the price hikes will be there, unless, of course, China puts in some of its own reserves to try to fill some of that gap, but there's no sign that China's going to be doing that.
No. Just beyond the gas pump, can you just walk us through some of the global ripple effects? Because there are many, and they almost go to every corner of the globe. Which economies are most exposed to a prolonged Hormuz disruption?
Well, Tom, that's a great question, because I think what's being missed is that it's not just the oil that's being interrupted, but natural gas production and helium production. And I say helium because that is a vital component that's used in the production of advanced semiconductors. So even though the advanced economies, many like the United States, are relatively well insulated from the oil shock, but is not insulated from the shortage of supplies in natural gas, in some of the petroleum distillates, and most importantly for the production of advanced semiconductors, helium. And the helium that comes from Qatar is something that is used globally in Taiwan and in the United States and in Europe to produce these advanced semiconductors. So much of the AI revolution on which the stock market has been rising like crazy is being threatened by the inability to manufacture some of these advanced chips. And that, I think, is not at all talked about when you talk about the disruption in the Gulf.
Yeah, the focus has certainly been on petrol prices rather than everything else. Just to finish here, obviously China, India, Japan, I mean, we heard Zimbabwe, Pakistan, Bangladesh, you know, they're all heavily reliant on Gulf supply routes. I mean, how does this crisis reshape the geopolitics of energy? And could we see countries making sort of permanent shifts away from Middle Eastern oil dependency because of this war and the longer it goes on?
Well, China has already made a lot of attempts to try to shift away from dependency on Gulf shipping transport by putting in these pipelines through their Belt and Road Initiative. And we see Saudi Arabia trying to develop its own pipelines to try to ship oil out of the key Strait of Hormuz area. But I think these are really small measures and really will take a long time to really shift the supply in some relevant fashion. In the short to intermediate run over the next 3 years or 5 years, we really have to depend upon shipping transport and there again, dependency on the openness of the Gulf for shipping transport. And that really is the vital for every country in the world, not just the Asia and not just Europe, but as I said, production of of fuel, but also production of advanced manufacturing like semiconductors.
Okay, thank you so much, William Lee. We really do appreciate your time and insight as always. William Lee in Los Angeles.
Thanks for having me.